Hi, my name is Andrea Hoover, and I did my service at Small Miracles Therapeutic Equestrian Center. The center was started by Mary Smith in 1995. Mary was an RN, and she saw a need in her community for this type of therapy. She combined her desire to serve, her strong faith, and her love for horses to start up Small Miracles. She had one horse and just a few riders at the time when she first started. She soon outgrew the location that she was borrowing with someone's on their family farm, and she was actually doing her lessons at. So in 1999, they purchased 11 acres, to which they can have their new facility. They now have an indoor arena, an outdoor arena, several large pastures, a pony pasture, and also office space as well. The agency exists to help those with autism, help those like the Girls and Boys House. So troubled teens, they actually come and they look at herd dynamics, and they see how that kind of relates to how they would relate to other people. They also do classes with veterans as well. Veterans who are, dealing with some sort of situation, maybe alcoholism or with PTSD, other situations like that. Mainly the people that I've been seeing them work with is students with autism, with sort of severe to mild autism, and the veterans. So I'm working with both of those programs. Some of the reasons that Small Miracles was started and is still being continued such a popular program is that it provides a different type of therapy for, like I said, for autistic students and stuff like that. It's not just a regular art therapy or just talking to a counselor or something like that. You're actually working with these animals. They do both mounted and unmounted activities. So students will either be maybe grooming the horse, maybe helping lead them around. They a lot of times they do feed prep. They'll actually have the students help prep the feed. They'll help them stir the feed in, actually give it to the horses. They do things like that. Some of the veterans, they'll actually have them play games with the horses. They'll make a path like this. The whole the Path of Life game that they played, where they had spots on the floor and they had to step on those pieces of cardboard they were using, and then had to bring the horses along with them. And they had an extra challenge of bringing the horse with them, not just going on themselves. So it shows that life wasn't easy and you have obstacles and things happen. So that was a really interesting type of game that they were able to play with veterans, kind of help them with their therapy process. Some of the other autistic students that I've been able to work with, they have more mild autism, and they actually do a mounted activity with her. They actually do lessons, and she doesn't just need what we call sidewalkers, which are students or volunteers that actually walk next to the students to make sure that they won't fall off or anything like that. She actually rides on her own. It's pretty much usually just the instructor, her, and one other person to watch and make sure. She actually rides a horse who I'll show you a picture of in a second, and his name is Tucker. He's one of the largest horses. She does a lot of working on more cognitive things and sometimes physical. They do a lot of physical therapy, have her stretch on the horse and have him stretch with her. So it's a very interesting thing to watch and something that I think that she's been really enjoying. There was a situation where she was trotting, which is sort of a fast walk for horses, and she actually ended up falling off her horse. The student, was a little shaken up by that, but she actually was very strong with it. She actually came back the next day, and they kind of did something a little different. They didn't actually have her get on the horse, but they did a whole sort of like parade type thing where they brought all the other horses out, and she worked with a whole bunch of horses at the time instead of just the one she had been working with. But she came back in high spirits, ready to go. So even though she did fall and she was a little bit bruised up, she was still gung-ho, ready to get back on and wanted to continue. So it kind of shows how much these horses actually affect the students that they work with. Alright, this is Tucker. This is the horse that the student I was just telling you about. She was riding this horse. He is actually the leader of the herd, kind of sticking his head out of his stall door right now. So he tends to watch over the herd. He is the largest horse that Small Miracles has. He used to be a thoroughbred racehorse, and they now use him for therapy. He's a pretty fun, interesting horse, and I really like him. Right, some of the ways that Small Miracles actually gets their funding for their lessons and to take care of all their horses is mainly through grants and through donations from individuals, businesses, and organizations. They are strongly supported by the United Way. So they get a lot of their funding through there. They also get it through other organizations, organizations that want to help those who are helping the community. They do charge a small fee for their lessons. It doesn't actually cover most of their lesson costs. Some of their lessons costs would be some equipment that they use, like the equipment for the horses, their tack or their saddles and stuff like that. They have a mini basketball hoop actually set up to actually help with more, physical aspects for those autistic students. And they use hula hoops, things like that. Sometimes, a horse will step on one of those and break it, so they need to replace that. And that's kind of what their lesson costs would be. For the most part, their funds usually are sufficient. They are able to get enough funding from United Way and from other charitable organizations, and also through donations from individuals to actually help cover their cost. They also do fundraisers as well. I know right now they're selling Christmas trees to help with funding. They also did, food product sales, like nut sales, candy, stuff like that. So that kind of helps offset the costs that they don't have covered by donations or grants. Alright, some of the ways if Small Miracles had extra funds, something that they would use it for, would be more equipment for their lessons, replacing the equipment that may be getting old or worn out. Sometimes they use like balls or things like that, or hula hoops, and sometimes they may get stepped on or broken. So they would use that money to pay for that. They'd also pay for like essential office supplies, things that they have to have. Sometimes they probably use it on paper, printing when they have to make a lot of copies, stuff like that. And they'd also use it to take care of their 11 horses. The horses obviously require a lot of money. They have a lot of feed, and they have supplements that they have to help keep them healthy and in the prime shape. So they'd use that money for that. Small Miracles actually does not budget for toilet paper and paper towels, which I think is kind of interesting. They try to get all that stuff donated if possible, from volunteers or from anyone else who wants to donate, to something like that. So they don't actually use their funds to buy that kind of stuff, and they hope to get it donated if possible. When I started my service at Small Miracles, I didn't really have any preconceptions of the agency or the population itself. All I knew about the agency was that they did therapy for many types of mental or physical limitations, and that they used horses to do this. I also thought some of the ways that my service affected me was, like I said, seeing both of those groups and seeing how they reacted so differently, but also seeing how the horses would react to them as well. There's not really anything that I would actually change about Small Miracles. They have been running for several years now, and they're very efficient at what they do. They do know the things that they need. The only things I could think of that would help to improve would just help to change the agency, would just help to improve it. If they can get more funds, with more funds they could afford to help pay for another teacher for the lessons, and that way they could give more lessons, because they do have many students that are actually on their waiting lists and waiting to get into their classes. So that'd be a good way they can actually help to cater to more to the population around them. And of course, with giving more lessons, they might need another indoor ring or an indoor arena where they can actually hold those lessons. Maybe they have 2 lessons going at once. This is all sort of stuff that would help to expand Small Miracles. Not something that really changed, because they do such a wonderful job at it anyway. Alright, so the last little bit that I wanted to show was actually some flyers that I picked up at Small Miracles and our volunteer handbook. This is actually the flyer that you can get from Small Miracles. It has their fancy logo on it and some of their horses. These are some of their students that they've been working with, and they have different pictures with them. The volunteer handbook that you get looks something like this. It goes through all of what volunteers need to know for the program, as well as their history. So they have quite a bit in there about what you need to do, and some such as the volunteer policies on this page right here, such as safety and attendance, attire. They do provide usually sometimes popsicles for volunteers when it's warm. Right, this image right here is actually one of our volunteers, usually volunteers, some of our veterans, actually working with Dunny. This is the horse in the middle. Alright, I just want to thank everybody for watching. I also want to thank everybody at Small Miracles, Linda McBride, who was my volunteer coordinator, and JR, who was over the barn. Also, any pictures that are posted in this presentation, they Small Miracles did get permission to post these pictures, so just as a disclaimer, everyone knew they were having the picture posted. I also got the flyer and the volunteer handbook from Small Miracles. So, thanks for watching. Have a good day.